Welcome, everyone. Good morning, where you all are. Welcome, welcome. Welcome. I hope you're having a great Digital District Day so far. While we are waiting, just about another minute and a half to get started, if you want to go ahead and hop into the chat to introduce yourself, I'd love for you to share your name and let me know what your position in the district is, whether you're a grade level teacher, you are support somehow. So go ahead and find that chat button and introduce yourself while we just wait another minute or so to get started. Welcome, Jen, high school English teacher at Marshall. Thank you for joining today. Welcome, Mark, sub and retired at Lincoln High School math teacher. I love seeing substitutes learning new technology. Thanks for joining us, Mark. Welcome, Maya, SPED at Mission. Welcome, Wes, speech pathologist at Lincoln. Yes, Seesaw is an amazing tool for SPED and speech teachers. Welcome, Hina. Thank you so much for putting how to pronounce your name. I really appreciate that. Math at Asawa. Welcome, Ida, paraeducator at Star King Elementary. Yes, even though this session is titled for 6th through 12th, of course, Seesaw can be used in any grade level. So really appreciate you coming today. Welcome, Shauna, 7th and 8th grade math at Marina. Welcome, Sabina, substitute teacher. I love seeing substitute teachers on here. Welcome, Suzanne, SLP at Presidio Middle School. My husband used to live in the Presidio, so we have a special place in our hearts for the Presidio. Welcome, Betty Rose. Supper pre-K to 8. Awesome. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, thank you all for joining today. Super excited to be here today. I hope you have enjoyed your morning so far. And you are now in creating accessible activities in Seesaw. Like I said, this is catered more the examples for 6th through 12th grade. However, everything we talk about in this session and my following session in the next hour can be altered and applied to different grade levels. So before we get started, I actually would love you to hop back in that chat and on a scale of 1 to 5, so share a number, 1, 2, 3, or 5, let me know how comfortable you are using Seesaw. So 5 being I'm an expert Seesaw user, 1, you're brand new to Seesaw, and there's no right or wrong answer. Awesome, so we have some beginners, we have an expert with us today. Great. Some people looks like have used it a little bit. I see some 2 and 3s. Great. So if you are one of my beginners, I encourage you to stay. Just please know that some of the things we're going over today are not the very beginning steps. However, at the end of the session, I will share where you can go to our Learning Hub to learn all about the basics of Seesaw so that you can learn those basics and then apply what you're learning today in your classrooms. So again, thank you all for joining. Now, your district's provided this slide. You need to make sure you sign in. It does say just once for the entire day. So if you've already signed in this morning, I believe you don't need to do this. However, if you have not signed in, either grab that QR code with your phone, or I will put in the chat the link, or you can go to that bit.ly link, bit.ly/.welcome. And it says, make sure for PD you're attending, select Digital District Day. And then if you don't work at a school, select any district office for your work site. So I'll give you just a minute to make sure that you all get signed in. And I see a question in this chat. Is this about student voice? Yes. Incorporated in this is student voice. Same with during the digital portfolio session that we have in the next hour using Seesaw. That's one of the most powerful parts with Seesaw is that students are able to use their voice and record it to share their learning with you. So again, make sure you grab that link I just shared in the chat or hold up your phone to get the QR code to sign in. Okay, you'll introduce yourself really quick. My name is Allie, and I'm a professional development and training specialist here at Seesaw. Prior to being at Seesaw, I was an educator, and I still like to say I am an educator, but I taught both 4th and 5th grade. I was a reading interventionist, and then also was an instructional coach, where I coached teachers how to use different technology, including Seesaw in their classroom. So I'm very excited to be here to help you all learn how to implement Seesaw more, or to begin implementing Seesaw into your classrooms. Okay, so I want us to start by thinking about this. How can technology support the great teaching and learning that's already happening in all of your classrooms? I am sure there is amazing teaching and learning and happening. So how can we use technology, or how might you already be using technology to support that teaching and learning? So head back to the chat and please answer that question. And I see the help. I will send the link one more time for that sign in. Let me know if it doesn't work, please. So again, share your thoughts in the chat. How can technology, or how does technology already support the great teaching and learning that's happening in your classroom? Awesome, thank you. I see collaborative creation of artifacts, absolutely. Gamification, yes, helps invigorate and helps with DEI. Tech can help provide oral language samples for student assessment. It helps offer student choice for demonstrating learning, 100%. I need, Anna, you'll have to exit out of this session then and head back to your the Digital District Day lobby, I believe is what it's called. Technology provides interactive visuals for students. Absolutely. It can help individualize, differentiate learning. Seesaw allows for voice of children and parents. Your answers are all spot on. Greater accommodations. Yes. Okay. So it sounds like you all already know this. Students thrive when they can actively explore new ideas and make their thinking and learning visible. So today we are going to learn how all of you can create accessible Seesaw activities to capture hands-on learning and allow for digital learning to check for your students' understanding. So this is our agenda. This is how we're going to do it. We're first going to look at capturing hands-on learning with very simple Seesaw activities. Then we're going to explore how to capture learning digitally, have students actually do their learning digitally with activity templates. So make those activities a little bit more complex. Then we're going to learn how to search for and modify activities from the community library that are already there for you. Teachers have already created them to help you support your students with differentiation. And then finally, we're going to learn how to use the progress tool in Seesaw to track student engagement. Okay, so let's start with how students themselves can capture hands-on learning in Seesaw. You all teach those upper grade students, most of you at least, 6th through 12th grade. So Seesaw is an amazing place to give your students that power to capture their own hands-on learning. A best practice for this, for capturing hands-on learning, is actually to start by the teacher creating Seesaw activities without templates. So again, very simple, to help you as the teacher stay organized and to allow students to choose, to give them that choice in which tool that they want to use to capture their learning. So to start, and again, I'm going to remind you, if you are one of my beginners, please stick with me. Just know that I will be providing resources at the end so that you can go back and really fully understand what we're going through today. So to start, you're going to head to your My Library and you're going to tap on that Create New Activity button, square. And as a reminder, your My Library is where all activities that you save or create are stored. Once you do that, you're going to see this template. You're going to add an activity name and student directions. And you're going to notice that these student instructions tell students here to use the photo tool and the label tool or the video tool to share their learning. You can also tell students to use a tool of their choice. You could just say, pick a tool that you want to use to capture your hands-on learning to make that choice even more relevant, and then keep the directions simple. Like I said, these are simple activities that you are just using so that organization happens with your students' hands-on learning. Keep those directions simple. You can also add voice instructions like you see here by just tapping add voice instructions to make this activity accessible to all of your learners. And if you would like, you can add right here where it says multimedia instructions or example. You can add an example, you can add an exemplar maybe that you want in order to provide students with more support while capturing their learning. Now, again, there's no need to add the student template right here because students are going to get to choose how they're going to capture their learning. Now, if you've never created an activity, like I said before, I will send you to our Learning Hub later to complete our Getting Started pathway, so you have those step-by-step directions. So once you've put in the title and you've put in those students' instructions, you're going to save it, and then you're going to assign the activity to your class, or you most likely have multiple classes, so you can assign to multiple classes. And you can even differentiate here and assign to just specific students and or specific student groups who you want to complete this activity. Now, once students complete this activity, all of their responses, all of their hands-on learning is going to be attached to the activity. So it's easy for you as the teacher to quickly go through and review all of your students' work. And we'll take a look at how to do that in just a minute. But first, we're going to look at some examples. So here's an example of a student explaining their reasoning in math. They used the photo tool in Seesaw on their laptop to snap that picture of their whiteboard. They just held it up. That shows how they solved this math inequality. Then the student used the label tool, which is typing in Seesaw, to explain how they solved the problem. Now, again, students could use the video tool to record a video of themselves explaining, or the voice tool to record their voice explaining their reasoning if they would prefer to do that. Now, you as the teacher are able to check the student's understanding. And if there's a teaching moment here, if a student made a little mistake, it is easier for you to understand where that reteach needs to occur, since you can easily be able to either read or listen to the student's reasoning for each step of solving that inequality. Okay, before I move on to the next slide, I do want to give a heads up. If you have a queasy stomach, the next slide does show a fetal pig dissection. So go ahead and turn your head and just listen to my voice if you need to. So here we go. In science, this is a science example. Students can capture their science experiments and labs in Seesaw. So here, the students were working in partners, and they used the photo tool on their iPad or on their phone or even on their computer to take a picture of their fetal pig dissection. And the way that this could be done is the partner could also hold up and angle that computer to get the picture directly in Seesaw. Now, after clearing up the lab, the students then, if they took it on their, in this case, they took it on their iPad or their phone, uploaded this photo to the Seesaw activity, and then used the label tool to identify the different blood vessels. You see these little labels right here. Students also could have taken, like I said, that photo directly in Seesaw and then saved the activity as a draft before returning to complete it after the dissection was over. Now, you also can perhaps see the red writing. It might be sort of hard, but here we have red writing here and then here as well. This is actually the teacher's feedback. So after the students turned this in, the teacher went in and used the drawing tool on the students' post on their activity to provide feedback right away. They just edited the post from the journal and then sent it back to the students. And again, don't worry, we will learn how to do that in just a few. Okay, we're done with the fetal pig dissection if you turned your head, so come back with me. So it's also easy to use Seesaw for text analysis. This example right here is a student citing context clues while they're reading. So they used the photo tool again to take a picture of a page in their book where there was a word that they were unsure of the meaning. Then they used the drawing tools to circle that word in blue, and then the highlighter within Seesaw to highlight the text that they used to support them in figuring out what the word means. And then lastly, the student used the microphone tool to record themselves, recording their voice, explaining what the word means and why they think so. So this allows you as a teacher to check for students' understanding of not only the text, but how the student is using context clues for reading. And this process can be used for all text analysis skills. So let's take a look actually, and listen, I should say, to this video.
I think that the word dignitaries means like a higher or a higher class person, or just a more formal person, because I highlighted things like their speech was strange, their clothing even stranger.
So there's that example of what the student turned in and how you as a teacher are able to hear how they use those context clues to figure out the meaning of that word. Okay, so once students capture their hands-on learning, like we just saw, by adding a response to the activity, it is now very easy for you to review all of their learning and provide feedback. So this is what you'll see. In the activities tab, and as a reminder, that journal tab in Seesaw is the default, so you'll need to click into your activities tab. You're just going to find the activity right here and tap on this bar that's going to show you how many responses you have, how many are waiting for approval, how many are still in draft, and how many students haven't even started, they've not responded to that activity. Once you tap on that, you're going to be taken to this view where you're going to be able to see all students' responses. And you're just going to tap on one to be able to look at it a little closer and provide that feedback. So when I tap into it, this is what's going to happen. It's going to open up so that I can review it and leave typed and or audio feedback for the student. So I'm going to click right here where it says comment. Oh, let me let that person, there we go. Click right there where it says comment. And then I can either type my feedback like we see here, or tap the microphone right here to record your voice. Now, many teachers do find this microphone to be the quickest way to provide some very fast, effective feedback for students. You record your voice, your students are able to hear your voice and your feedback. Just make sure that whether you do the typed or the microphone, the audio comments, that you remember to tap that post button so it posts and attaches to the student's post so they're able to see the feedback. Now, what's so nice in this view is once I've added the comment to one student, provided my feedback to one student, I can easily tap that next button that you see right here on the bottom right. And I'm going to be able to scroll through all of my students' responses to check all of their understanding and quickly provide that feedback with either a typed or audio feedback. Okay, another warning. That pig dissection photo is coming up again in the next 2 slides. I'll let you know when it's gone if you need to turn your head. Here we go. Okay, so you can also provide feedback like we saw earlier on this pig dissection photo directly on a student's post. So you see here that the teacher is now in the class journal. And on that student's post, they're going to tap on those, oops, I'm sorry, computer has a mind of its own. They're going to tap on those 3 dots on the bottom right. Then tap where it says edit post. You're then going to be taken right into the student's canvas onto their work. And you can use the drawing tool like this teacher did here with the red. You could even leave a video of yourself providing feedback. You could use the label tool to provide any feedback. Now, what you want to make sure, though, is that you tap that green check when you're done so the feedback gets saved onto their post. And once you've done that, if your feedback requires students to go back and continue working on the activity, you want to make sure you tap those 3 dots again, and then tap right here where it says send back as draft. When you do that, that activity is going to show up for students to back in their activities to do tab for them to continue working on. So when they go to continue working, they click that finish response button. They're going to be able to see your feedback within the canvas while they are working. Okay, pig dissection is gone. Okay, so I want us, now that you've seen some examples, I want us to think about how do Seesaw's learning tools make learning that's happening in your classroom visible. So if you want to hop in the chat and share your ideas, this is a small group. So if you, I guess we're up to 40, but still pretty small. So if you would like to unmute and share, please feel free to do so as well. How do Seesaw's learning tools make learning visible? From what you just saw. I see Betty, go ahead. Thanks so much.
Allie, you know, it's perfect for 6th to 8th grade, but it felt like last year it wasn't welcomed in middle school. Is it welcomed now?
Yes, it is. That's why I am here. So I'm here for specifically 6th through 12th grade. So it's all the way from pre-K, kinder, all the way up to 12th grade. So yes, it is.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I could have used this last year with my student that was very sick. So thank you.
Of course. I'm so glad you're excited to use it this year. Let's see. Oh, I see amazing responses. Let me see. Really can see what the students are doing. Absolutely. You can't check in on every single student every single day, unfortunately. So Seesaw allows you to do that. Giving verbal comments was great for helping students with pronunciation. Absolutely. Especially if we're thinking of like our multilingual students. I love when I see people saying they've never used Seesaw before. Well, today is your day to learn how. I heard that it allows for students to comment on other students' posts. Yeah, so again, I will be sending you the link to our Learning Hub where you can take our Getting Started courses if you're not aware of all of these features, and you can learn how to turn that feature on or off in that course. Okay, so some other ideas. Students are able to share anything with the video and photo tools like was shared on here. On the Seesaw canvas, students can also use that microphone or the voice tools to voice record, to share their own voice, their own reasoning to explain to you. They can use the pens and labels to annotate and add explanation. And then you all have Seesaw for Schools. So in just a minute, you'll actually see that you can have up to 20 pages when you create a template, which we'll explore next, to allow your students to share even more learning. Okay. So now we're going to learn how students, can capture their learning digitally within Seesaw, which means that we're going to look at Seesaw templates. So we're going to look at how you can use Seesaw templates when creating those activities to provide scaffolds and support student learning. You can use audio, visual, choice of output to make learning accessible to all of your students. So our first step is to add a student template when creating an activity. So once created, make sure you tap Save. If you have never created an activity, again, I'm going to say make sure to complete our Getting Started pathway in the Seesaw Learning Hub, which I will share at the end of this, to help you learn how to create a Seesaw template. Now, when you tap Save, you're going to see that that template is attached to the activity right here. This is the template that students are going to be editing or showing their work on. So here's an example of a Seesaw template. Now, do not worry. Templates do not need to be this detailed. If you don't want to, I'll show you some very basic templates as well. What the teacher did is they included those step-by-step written directions on the left and recorded the directions in audio. You're going to see those little speaker buttons right here. Students are able to click on those speakers and listen to the teacher reading those directions, so the directions are accessible to all of your students. Students then used the label tool, which you see here, their typed paragraph in blue, to type their paragraph. And then they also used that voice tool to record themselves reading the paragraph. In this case, this is a student who's learning Spanish. And so this is a really great way for a second language teacher to be able to check how are students doing with their pronunciation. Someone mentioned that earlier, and how are they doing learning that second language. Now, if needed, the teacher could have given the option for students to handwrite this paragraph and then capture it in Seesaw with the photo tool and then use that voice tool to add even more choice in output and to support all of your learners. Okay, now here is a very simple example of a Seesaw activity. A teacher created in order to capture students thinking and solving of a math problem. This was a quick check for understanding at the end of the day. So the teacher created this activity and used the label tool to add that equation that you see in black. That's all they did. They titled it Thinking and Solving in Math, gave some student instructions, and then added used the label tool to add that equation. Then students went in and used our microphone tool, which is like a draw and record. And you're going to see this in just a minute. It not only records the voice, but it also records the drawing that's happening on the screen. And the student did this to record themselves solving and explaining how they solved this math equation. The teacher could add a mini lesson video as well if they wanted to support students who need extra help understanding the concept as well. So this is a very quick and easy way, like I said, to capture students' learning and check for understanding. So let's take a look at this.
6 times 7 equals 42. And then know that first you do have to do the parentheses and then you do the division, and 42 divided by 2 is 21, and then 21 plus 5 equals 26.
So again, the student just used that microphone tool, and while they were recording their voice, they used the drawing tool to show what they were doing and then use their voice to explain it. So the teacher is able to quickly check in whether that student understands how to solve a certain, in this case, inequality. Okay, here's another example of a very basic and simple template. The teacher just provided those directions you see on the left. Again, they did record their voice on those directions so that all students were able to access them. They also provided that word bank you see on the top, just simply with a screenshot from their digital textbook, and then that image of the human body. Then students used the label tool to create all of those little muscle labels that you see, and the drawing tool to then match the labels that they created to the correct muscles on this picture of the human body. Now, some options here is you could have the muscle names typed out. So you could use the label tool to type out those muscles names separately to make this even more accessible to all of your students. Then the students would then just drag those labels where they go, and it'd be more of like a word bank. Then you also could add audio to those muscle names. So back to whoever shared that, Seesaw is great for pronunciation. Some of these muscle names are really hard to say. So it would be very helpful to have your voice recorded to those muscles so that when students are adding them, they can practice, they can hear how to pronounce it correctly and then practice saying it themselves. Just another way to add those extra scaffolds. Okay, here's another example activity template. Again, this one's pretty simple. The teacher just added a background and a white box and a title for students. The teacher's instructions on the beginning of the activity were to type a paragraph from the student's recent essay. So the students wrote an essay. The students were supposed to just pick one paragraph from that essay to type, and then use the drawing tool to identify content-specific vocabulary. And then use either the label tool or the voice tool to define that vocabulary or those vocabulary words that the student identified. So you're going to see here that this student chose to use the voice tool. That's this little speaker icon again right here, to explain the meaning of those words. So they recorded themselves explaining the vocabulary definitions. The teacher here provided this choice in output to make sure that the assignment was accessible to all learners. Again, they also could have given that option to either have the student take a picture if they had their essay printed out, or maybe upload a screenshot of the essay if it was typed in like Google Classroom or something, Google Docs, to this Seesaw activity. They also could have given them the option to just read their paragraph, record themselves reading it instead of typing it if you have students who need that option for a choice in output. Okay, so we just saw a bunch of activity examples. Some were a little more complicated than others, some were simple. So I'd love us to just do a quick stop and think before we're going to have a chance to actually hop into Seesaw and explore about how Seesaw activities can make learning accessible to all students. And while you're thinking about this, you can either jot or hop in the chat to share or unmute and share. I did see someone actually put an answer that helps with this question. It says, it helps students to understand better with videos, teacher voice, as well as pictures or the graphs on Seesaw. Absolutely. I don't think that was in response to this question, but that does explain how activities make learning accessible to all students. So thank you for that answer. If anyone else wants to chime in with what they noticed, it seems that audio feature makes it different. Oh, from Google Classroom. Yes, absolutely. And we will actually go through in my next session about how you can use Seesaw with other platforms. But it's definitely very different than Google Classroom with all of the features of being able to capture that student's work in the audio and video, just like you all said. Okay, so also all of those step-by-step text and audio directions. So again, those audio directions on top of the text directions, really making all of the directions accessible to all of your students. All of the multimedia examples and resources that you can provide to your students to help support them in completing their learning. And also, again, more of those audio and video supports within the actual templates that you're creating. So I am going to hop into Seesaw now. Now, if you are someone who said you were a 5 and expert and you want to hop into your own Seesaw to practice or remind yourself how to create activities, go for it. That's what I'm going to do. And then you all will have some time actually to hop in. So totally up to you whether you follow along with me just with your eyes or if you hop into your Seesaw. So I am in my Seesaw. As I mentioned, that journal tab is the default. And this is just where I can scroll through and see all of my students' work. Now to create an activity, I'm going to tap on the green add button and I'm going to tap assign activity. I'm going to go to create new activity. Remember, my library is where all of those activities I've either created or saved are going to live. So I'm going to tap on create new activity. And the first thing I'm going to do is give this a title. We're going to do a summarizing reading activity today. And then I'm going to type my instructions. Now, best practice is just to type these directly in Seesaw. Just for time's sake, I typed them out already. So I'm going to copy them over so that we don't run out of time. One thing that you're going to notice, perhaps, is these words I have in the instructions that are in between the colons, like add and photo and 3 dots and check. What these are our Seesaw shortcuts. And so when I save this activity, they're going to turn into the actual icons that your students are going to see in Seesaw. So again, another great accessibility feature. If you have students who need that visual, here's the visuals for them so that they know, okay, they're tapping add response, they're using the photo, they're going to type, those are there for them. So I'm going to drop in the chat a link to this. This is a Help Center article that has a PDF of all of the shortcuts. It's going to show you what the icon is, and then that text shortcut, which is what you're going to put in the instructions when you're creating your activities. So I'll drop that in the chat now. You definitely want to bookmark that for when you're creating activities. I'm going to hop back in and edit my activity to keep going. So I have my activity name. I have my student instructions. Again, really recommend you tapping on this add voice instructions. Then again, just tap on the microphone. You can record 2 minutes. Number 1, tap add response. 2, use the photo tool, and I would keep going and recording those instructions for my students. When I have them all recorded, I'm just going to tap on the green check right here. Now, multimedia instructions or example, again, this could be an exemplar that you've created or you have from another student. It could just be an engaging image. You also don't have to put anything in here. If you don't, then that becomes the student template. It just hops on there again. But when you click on multimedia instructions, you do have an option to do any of these, use any of these tools. So you can take a picture, you could upload that exemplar, or you could create something in the Canvas. We're not going to add anything today. We're going to keep it simple, but I am going to click on add template for student responses. Now, the most popular one, if you're not aware, is drawing, because this is the Canvas. This is where you can use all of our Seesaw tools in one place for the template. Now, the first thing you might want to do is change the background color to something different than white, or keep it white. And then I'm going to just start with my title, summarizing reading. Tap on those 3 dots. I'm going to change the style so that it's a fun, filled in. Not sure those colors go that well together, but that's okay. For today, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to put that to the top, and then I'm going to type my directions. I'm going to change that style. I'm going to say, let's see, 1 was use the photo tool to capture a picture of the book. And I would keep going and type all of my directions here so that students have them. Now, if you don't want to type your directions onto this Canvas, not a big deal. When students are completing Seesaw activities, there is actually a little spot up here, a little button that says view instructions that they can click to be reminded what those instructions were at the first part of your activity. I prefer adding them on the Canvas as well, just so students don't forget. Now, how do I add voice to this? I'm going to tap on the 3 dots of that text, and I'm going to click on voice. When I record voice, I can record up to 5 minutes, quite a long time. Again, reading these directions to students. Today, you're going to be summarizing your reading. First, use the photo tool to capture a picture of your book. And I would continue recording those instructions. I'm going to tap on the green check, and then there I see those instructions for me. Now, you can choose whether you want to put a place, like a box for students to do their work. And we have a bunch of shapes here in Seesaw. So I'm going to add this shape. I'm going to change it to white. This is where my students are going to be able to capture the picture of their book and then summarize their reading. Now, once I've created and my template is ready to go, and I'm either ready to assign it or save it to my library, I do want to make sure I tap on that green check. That is always something. Don't ever exit out of Seesaw unless you have tapped that green check to save it and then gone to save, clicked on save again. Now, I am going to show you how to assign. So when you're ready to assign, you are going to click on that assign button. And as I mentioned, most of you probably have multiple Seesaw classes. So you can just easily click on, okay, I want my Seesaw secondary, I want my Get Teacher Started, and I want my music class to get this. For differentiation, it's very easy. You just go right here where it says Edit Students, Folders, and Skills next to that class you've selected. And here you're able to edit your students and groups. Student groups are new as of 2 months ago to Seesaw, which is so exciting. If you've never used them or aren't sure how to create them, don't worry. In our Seesaw Learning Hub, there is a course on how to create them. So again, I'll share that with you at the end of this session. I'm going to uncheck because I don't want all of my students to receive this assignment. I just want my 3 students in my math group, and then perhaps Aaron, because Tracy and Allie do not need to complete this assignment. Now, if you want everyone to do the assignment, just make sure all students in the class are checked. Again, I'm going to click on that green check mark, and I'm going to assign it to my 3 classes. And here I am able to see it in the activities tab. Of course, there's no responses yet, and students have this now in their activities tab to complete and to show me how they summarize their reading. Okay, it is going to be your turn to hop into Seesaw now to create an activity, and you have a choice. You can either create one with a template or without a template. That depends on whether you want students to be capturing their hands-on learning, then you could do it without a template. Or if you want to give them more choice in their output, you could do without a template. Or if you want that template to be there because you have more instructions or you want students doing some manipulating on the template, up to you. Here are those steps. You're going to tap that Add button, Assign Activity, tap that Create New Activity button, enter an activity name and student instructions. If you want, add an exemplar or an image there. And then if you're going to use a template, tap that Add Template for student responses. If you're not, don't worry about that. And then when you're done, you just tap that green check and assign. So I think we should have time for about 4 to 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and set a timer. If you have not gotten into Seesaw yet, I believe that you can access it through Clever for your district. So you can head to Clever, or if you head to app.seesaw.me, which I just put into the chat, you're going to see a login option to log in with Google or to log in with Clever. And I've been told that they both should work for your district. If anyone's on here and knows that that's not how it works anymore, please let me know. Otherwise, that should be the process. And again, this is going to be your time to explore. I'm not going anywhere. So if you have questions, please ask in the chat or unmute and ask. Get that timer set. Okay.
Allie,
Yes.
as a substitute teacher, and we're doing the assignment for the children and it's in Seesaw, do we leave a note for the actual teacher to let them know that this work has been done? Do you see what I'm asking? Because usually when it's a Google Classroom, it's easier to send. So this is not connected to Google. It's in Clever, a separate window for the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers to look at.
Yes. Do you know, Betty, as a sub, do you have your own Seesaw login, or are you a co-teacher?
Yes.
You do?
I have
Okay.
it. Well, HHI is, I'm a regular substitute, but I'm a substitute for children coming out of hospitals returning to school.
Okay.
So that's why I'm asking this kind of a question, because sometimes, yes, I teach live, but when I'm teaching children that are sick, sounds like I have to send an email to the teacher letting them know that the student has done the work.
Yes, and you should also be able to, after you've checked with teachers on their preference, you should be able to add the teacher as a co-teacher within the Seesaw classroom, within your Seesaw classroom, so that they're able to then log in and see that work in Seesaw without you necessarily having to send that email if they know that you have one of their students and that they're going to be working in Seesaw.
Okay, so what happens is my own account, which I have, I send the link to them and then they can come in to see the students' work through that.
Yes, let me get you.
That sounds good. All right.
Here's a Help Center article that has directions for how to add co-teachers. So take a look at that, and then definitely check with your teachers about that. But I think that's the best way to go about this, is just adding those teachers as co-teachers. And then as their students, head back to the class and you're no longer teaching them, you can always take them off as a co-teacher as well. whatever
Oh, cool.
process works best for you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Oh, Mayako, such a good question. It's something I forgot to show. They asked, if we create a template, can the students edit the teacher's text or only the work in an editable box? Let me hop back into this activity. There is a way that you can lock the text, and I highly suggest you do it. And I don't know why I forgot to show this. So I'm going to go in and edit. I'm going to go back to my student template. And when I click on anything I've added right here, I'm going to see those 3 dots. Really suggest you locking and lock all if you do not want your students to be able to move it, delete it, change the size. I'm going to do it to this box as well. 3 dots, lock, lock all, and the title. This way, when the students hop in, if they try to move things, they're not going to be able to, and they will just be able to edit whatever they actually add. Thank you so much for that question. I'm sorry I skipped over that. I see a question from Olga. Can students also lock their work? Yes, Olga, students can do the exact same thing with locking their work. If you as the teacher do need to unlock something to change it or whatever it might need to be, you do have that power per se. If you were to go in and edit a student's post, you are able to unlock it, but they also can lock their work. So it's locked where they want it exactly. Okay, this time is flying by. We have about 45 more seconds. So please continue exploring. And when you get to a good place, make sure you save your activity. If we end up having extra time at the end, of course, we'll be able to hop back and explore some more. Let's see, my voice recording didn't play back. Interesting. Okay, is the voice recording one on the student instructions or is it within on the Canvas? If it's the instructions, you should be able to see, press that play button to play it back. It's on the student instructions. Okay, so let me hop in again. When I go here, I'm going to delete this just so I can show you. So I'm going to click where it says add voice instructions, click that microphone, record, record, record. Make sure that you then click this green check when you're done. Don't click the X, that will not save it. Make sure you click the green check and then it should quickly process and show up like this. And you're able to press play, phone, record, and then hear that. And you did exactly that. That is so interesting. Okay, do you see this bar right here at all once you clicked the green check? Yes, okay. And then when you press that play button, is there just nothing? No audio? Interesting. Okay, I would just say try saving your activity and then going to those 3 dots, edit activity, delete the current recording and try it again and see if that works. Awesome, thank you. Okay, and we are going to move on to our next section just so we don't run out of time, but please let me know if that voice recording works or not. So go ahead and tap that green check, tap save so that whatever you've worked on with your activity, you still have in your save to your My Library. Okay, so my mouse is going to work. There we go. We're now going to learn how to find already created activities in the community library. Activities that other 6th through 12th grade teachers have already created that you can use and how you can easily save and modify them to fit your students' needs. This is something that your district asks that we highlight because they and we do also understand how busy you all are and how time is so precious as teachers. And so hopefully this can help you find those activities that you're already looking for, and then you can just do a little modification so that they're ready to fit your students' needs. So to access the community library, you're either going to tap on that library button on the top or tap on that green add button and then the assign activity button. Then you're going to want to tap in the community library. It's the furthest one over to the left. And here you see that you can filter by grade level and or subject. So here I've selected 9th grade. I did all subjects, but you can select a certain subject. And then you can either scroll through everything that is available, in this case to 9th grade for 9th grade students, and or search for specific activities. So if you're looking for math or if you're looking for summarizing or whatever it might be. Now, once you find an activity that meets you and your students' needs, like this algebra, review graphing lines activity, you want to tap this heart right here to save it to your My Library. So when you tap the heart, it's going to save into your My Library for you. And in your My Library, when you tap on the activity, you're then going to be able to modify and edit it. So to do that, the first thing you'll do is tap those 3 dots on the bottom right, and then tap copy and edit activity. Once you've done that, the activity is going to copy and a new version of the activity is going to pop up. And you're actually now the author and the owner of this activity version. You can easily edit that student name, the student instructions. You can delete the other teacher's voice instructions and add your own voice. You can add a different multimedia example, and you can also edit the template for students. So making this activity your own so that it's helping with your students' needs, but all of that heavy lifting has already been done for you. Just please, 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 please make sure to tap that save button once you've done all of your editing. Then you're going to tap the assign button to be able to assign it to your class or classes. And like we saw earlier, you can tap that edit students folders skills button to be able to select those certain students or groups of students to assign the activity to. And as a reminder, this makes differentiation with Seesaw activities super easy. Okay, that was quick. We're going to hop back in so you have time to explore the community library yourself. So I'm going to go back to Seesaw. I'm going to go back to my journal tab because that's the default. And I'm going to head to that community library. So again, I can either tap this library button here or tap the green add button and assign activity. And I'm going to click on community. Mine is already set to 9th grade. I'm going to change it. Let's do 10th grade just for today. Like I said, I'm going to keep it all subjects. I can scroll through and just see what's popular this week in 10th grade. Maybe I find something there already, helping 10 amazing facts about summer. That sounds fun. Good way to welcome students back. I could also look at the featured authors for 10th grade. When I tap onto one of the featured authors, it's going to show all of their activities that they have submitted and gotten approved into the community library. I should mention, just for our new users, that the community library is where our Seesaw certified educators and Seesaw ambassadors are able to submit their activities. So not anyone can submit activities. These are reviewed by our Seesaw team to make sure they are those high quality activities to share out. I also could change the subject right here. If I'm looking for a very specific subject, I could look at English language arts and then scroll through all of the 126 10th grade English language arts activities. Or I could go up here and I could search for, I don't know why this is on my mind. I think it's because it was the last slide, graphing. So I'm looking for a graphing. This looks great because this already has that graph paper in the activity. So I'm actually going to click on the activity. I'm able to see what are the students going to do. They're going to tap on the draw button to graph the equation. Then they're going to use the mic to record an explanation. Love this. It's already done for me. So I'm going to tap that heart button. I'm then going to hop into my library, where I'm going to find that activity. However, I'm not the author of this yet. Constance is the one who created this, but I want to edit some things. So I'm going to click on here. I'm going to go down to those 3 dots on the bottom, and I'm going to copy and edit the activity. A new one is open, and here I go. So maybe I want to add voice instructions. Really recommend you doing that. And I see that question. No, you don't need to hold down and press the record. So we're about to explore. I'll try and help you a little further with your microphone. I'm going to do the green check. And there we go. Maybe I want to edit the template a little bit. I want to add some typed directions to tell my students what they're going to do. Those are going to go over here. I'm going to add my voice to those directions. I can do all of this. I can add an image if I want. And I want to make sure to tap that green check again and save. Now, in your My Library, there's going to be 2 copies of this activity now. Here's mine, Mrs. Seesaw, and here's the original author. I suggest that you go back to the original authors, tap the 3 dots, and remove from My Library so you don't get confused about which one you edited for your students. I'm going to remove it. And then here's mine. I can go in and go ahead and assign this activity to my students, and I want my whole class to get it. So I'm going to tap Assign One Activity, and I can see it there in my Activities tab. Okay, so now it's going to be your turn to explore the community library. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes again to browse the community library, find activities that can be used in your classroom. If you find an activity that you may want to use, you can save the activity by clicking on that little heart. And then if you have time, go ahead and copy and edit the activity to modify it to fit your students' needs. And I'm looking at the time, and we're going to have time for about 3.5 minutes. I know that's very long. Not very long. We just have another section we want to make sure to get through. So enjoy exploring. And again, I'm here for questions, which I see. No lessons on physical education yet. Olga, I am going to share that feedback with our community team that we need some higher level grades, physical education. And Olga, if you are a physical education teacher and you want to become a Seesaw ambassador, I encourage you to go through that process, and then you could be adding those examples activities yourself. Yes, you can insert YouTube videos to Seesaw. You would just insert a link, which I'll actually be showing how to do in the digital portfolio session next. But I can show you really quickly. The video itself doesn't play, but a link is provided. So you can either here for the template, do a link, or if you're inside the drawing, the canvas, you can do a link here. And then if you just put the link to YouTube or whatever the video is, it's going to pop up as a link and the student would click on it and it would take them out to YouTube. Actually, it doesn't stay in within Seesaw. Good question. Oh, I'm so glad you got the recording to work. Thank you for persevering through that. How do we add these? Collection, such a good example or question, Shauna. So unfortunately, we don't have time to go through that today, but within our community, our learning hub, you will find a course. It's within one of our courses on how to use Seesaw collections to help you stay organized. Really recommend you use collections. So I'll encourage you in less than 10 minutes, because we only have 10 more minutes, to take that course to learn how to use our collections in Seesaw. Good question. Okay, about 1 more minute to explore. I'm sorry, I wish I could give you more time. This hour always flies by. Okay, wrap up that exploration. Hopefully you found at least one activity that you perhaps can explore and use. Back to Olga, just thinking for physical education, there might be some physical education activities that were added for younger grades that you can use as a base and then just change it so that it's useful for your students and the grades that you teach. Just a thought I just had. Okay, our last section that we're going to sort of fly through is how to use progress in Seesaw to track student engagement. So you can access progress on the right in your Seesaw account by tapping on that progress tab. And this is the progress tab. There are 2 views. There's the activities view that we see here and the skills view. The default is the activities view. And this is where you're going to track completion of Seesaw activities. So a very quick glance of have my students or my student completed the activities. It helps identify engagement trends, follow up with students, and provide students and families with actionable progress reports. Now, again, we're just in this progress tab right here. So journal, activities, notifications, just click on progress. You might not see anything if you haven't assigned an activity in Seesaw yet. Now, if you're using skills in Seesaw, the skills rating is going to appear, that's the little number in star you see, in the activities view next to the completion icon. So what are those icons? This is the icons. An empty red circle next to an activity and a student means that the activity has not been started by that student yet. An orange check means that the student saved the post as a draft. That unfilled green check means that it's waiting for you as the teacher to approve the work. And then the filled green check means that it's complete and approved by you, the teacher. That's in the activities progress view. Now we're in that skills view within the progress tab. So skills view shows students' skills ratings, giving you an at-a-glance summary of mastery. You can think of skills like standards, those state standards or national standards. Now, I've been told that some San Francisco Unified School District schools have skills uploaded already to Seesaw, but not all. Don't worry if you don't have skills uploaded. I'm going to show you how to add the skills that you want into Seesaw. I also really suggest that you ask your school administrator to bulk upload skills for your school, so not every single teacher has to do it on their own. So to use the skills view, you can hover over a skill or a standard for more details. To hover, just move the mouse, don't click on it, and then I get those details here. The rating that shows for a skill next to a skill and a student is the most recent mastery rating for that skill. So this student most recently scored that highest on the skill. That's what the dark green color is. And then the little number next to it indicates the number of posts that student is tagged to that skill. This means that the student has completed 2 posts tagged to this specific skill on describing characters. Now you can hover over a rating for more details, including the rating for each post by the student tagged to that skill like you see here. And you can also tap on a rating to view all of the students' posts that were tagged to the skill. So when I tap on this rating, I'm going to see all of the posts tagged to the skill, showing that student's progress over time all in one place. Now I can get even more specific and I can use these filtering controls on the right. I can filter by students, by groups, by folders, by skills. Here I searched by my folders, all of those activities tagged to my math folder. Now I can even generate a shareable skills progress report by tapping on a student's name. So I tap on their name. This is that skills progress report. And under each skill is going to be the date and the rating of the posts that were tagged to the skill. I can copy and or print this report in order to share it with my students and my families. Because skills and progress review are only visible to teachers and administrators. So if you want to share this with student families, again, make sure to share that progress report by copying or printing it. So if you don't have skills, again, I really encourage you to ask your administrator, but if you need to do it yourself, just head to the wrench, your class settings in the top right of your Seesaw journal. Scroll to that progress section and tap manage skills. And then here you can tap plus new skill to add a skill if you want it. You can add as many skills as you want. And again, really encourage you to have your admin bulk upload these so you don't have to do every skill one-on-one. So progress skills views is going to help you identify learning trends, follow up with students, provide students and families with actionable progress reports. And I know I just sped through that. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the clock. We're running out of time. Don't worry, there is a course that goes into this even deeper on our Learning Hub. So in just a minute, I'll share that with you. Okay, you did it. You learned how to capture hands-on learning with simple activities, how to create templates to capture learning digitally in Seesaw, how to find and modify activities in the community library to support that differentiation, and then quickly how to use progress to track engagement. So your exit ticket is to set a goal for one way that you can create accessible learning experiences in Seesaw this year. I really encourage you, if you have more time today, to explore this further and or attend my next session that starts, I believe, in about 18 minutes, where we dive into digital portfolios with Seesaw and how you can use Seesaw to create digital portfolios. So this is that Learning Hub I have been talking about. I'm going to put the link in the chat, learn.seesaw.me. Really encourage you, not lean, excuse me. Do not copy that one, learn.seesaw.me. Really encourage you to head to our Learning Hub. Like I said, it is where you're going to find pathways and courses to help you get started, go deeper. We have a pathway for specialist teachers. I know Olga, physical education teacher. You will need to create an account for this. Encourage you to use that same email that you use to access Seesaw. And if you head to our training page, web.seesaw.me/training, you are going to find other resources. You're going to be able to sign up for webinars. We have a bunch of back to school webinars that actually have already started for admin and for teachers start next week. So if you're new, really encourage you to check those out. And I did see a question, those how-to tutorial videos for teaching students how to use Seesaw. Yes. So if you head to web.seesaw.me/training, you're going to find a lot of training resources. And if you head to web.seesaw.me/resources for teachers, you're going to find videos to help you teach your students how to use Seesaw. Great question. So capture all of those. I will also make sure that they're included in the follow-up email that I'll send to your district. Whew, okay, last request. Your district asked that I provide this feedback form. So I'm going to put that in the chat right now. You can either click on the link that I put in the chat or use your phone to get that QR code to provide feedback on this session. They will be providing me with the feedback. So please, at Seesaw, we love receiving feedback from educators so that we can tailor our sessions and make our professional development the most meaningful for all of you. So if you can just spend our last minute and a half together completing that feedback form, I would really appreciate it. And I'm going to grab. Okay, and then one more time, here's actually a clickable link to our Learning Hub. Yes, here is the link again to that. I know it's different than the bit.ly. I just clicked into the bit.ly and got the long link. So that link I just put is your feedback form. You also could go to the bit.ly 2022 DDD feedback, whatever is easier for you. And I forgot to mention, I'm located in Denver, so it's 12 o'clock here. It's 11 o'clock your time. I know that means we're supposed to be done. Yes, there's a clickable link. Here it is. There's the feedback form link. So when you're done with that feedback, feel free to hop off. I just want to say thank you so much. Really appreciate you spending an hour of your day with me today. Again, I will be hosting another session in 15 minutes. That's all about using Seesaw as a digital portfolio, how your students can use it, how you're able to access and see all of their growth over time during that year and previous years. So I encourage you to come to that. And then my colleague is hosting a session, a mini session later, all about how to use our new feature of Seesaw messages. So check those out. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate you spending your morning with me, and I hope you have a wonderful school year, and hopefully I will see you in about 15 minutes. If you're taking the next session, no, you don't say. There's a separate link. So I'll close this out in just a minute. And then we'll all have to hop into the digital portfolio link. Great question. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming to this. One more time, if you didn't grab that feedback, there is the link to the form. And when you're done, you can go ahead and hop off, and hopefully I'll see you in about 14 minutes now. And if not, I wish you a wonderful school year. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Awesome. Thank you, Kara. So glad to hear. In about 1 minute, I'll go ahead and end this meeting. So if there's any last questions, let me know.
Ali, thank you. It was a great session.
Of course. Thank you so much for attending, Betty. And I'm glad you're excited to get to use Seesaw this year. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end this meeting just so we can all get a little screen time break. And hopefully I'll see you in about 13 minutes. Thanks, everyone.